AI. I'll use more than two letters in my. Out of curiosity, we'll have a short interactive part here at the start. How many of us regularly use AI in our lives? Show of hands. Not very many of us. Okay. Okay. Well, out of those that use AI, how many of us use it and rely on it for any kind of spiritual content? Bible verses or questions about God or anything like that? Monica does. My mom does. Okay, cool. Okay, yeah, agreed. Agreed. So, as a pastor, yeah, 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 as a pastor, I will say that I have stopped using the search function in my Bible app because then I have to individually look through many related and unrelated things, and AI will pull verses much more accurately, and then I'll go find them, and I do find that useful. Now, whether you use AI or not, how many of us know how it works? Some of us. Still, not that many of us. And I think that's going to be something that I can help with this, right? There are not many of us that are very computer oriented. But I think as Christians, in the world we live in today, we need to know some about this, right? We have to be able to explain um, whether or not AI belongs in our lives as Christians, and why. We need to know what the benefits are, what the downfalls are. And this is a topic I will not be able to cover entirely in 30 minutes. Promise you. And I'm willing to do more on this topic if people are interested. You just let me know. But hopefully this morning I can give us a starting point for some of this to define what it is, to give some amount of information on why we might want to use it as Christians, why we might want to avoid it, and some scripture that deals with the themes that uh, come into play when we talk about artificial intelligence. So I think the first thing that is important for us to wrap our heads around this is to define what intelligence is in the first place. Not artificial intelligence. What does it mean to be intelligent, right? If we're calling something else intelligent in any capacity, as Christians, most of us probably understand that we have a creator, a God, that has made us to be smart people, creative people, and intelligent beings. And if you put it simply, you look up the definition, it just says, are you able to acquire and apply knowledge and or skills as a person? And it's a bit simplistic, so I will further clarify that generally, human intelligence is characterized not just by one trait, but by the combination of many. Right? If you're good at just one thing, that doesn't necessarily make you super intelligent. Sorry to say, but you got to work on many different things, and humans are able to do that. Right? Your pets have some really neat abilities. You can teach your dog tricks, and our cats are great. They can track down all the flies and other bugs and insects that enter the house and catch them for us when I could not, even if I wanted to, right? I don't have that skill. But unfortunately, their abilities, their list of abilities ends far sooner than my own. Animals could never accomplish even the smallest fraction of the things that we could. So it's important to recognize being able to acquire and apply knowledge and skills is great, but I think the plurality of that is very important as well. How many skills can we acquire? How good can we get? And God has made us so complex and so wonderfully that we are able to do that. You could also clarify this even further, that intelligence is not the same as the ability to do complex things. An example was given in my research where the female wasp will gather food, bring it back to the nest, and she'll set it down in a very specific spot before she goes in and prepares the nest for it, and then finally the last step is putting it away for good. And scientists have gone in to that process and invaded the process between the time she sets it down at the entrance and starts preparing. The scientists will move the food just ever so slightly out of place from where the wasp put it. And then the wasp doesn't know what to do after that. Has to restart the whole process over again because, oh no, the food's not where I expected it to be. And although it's a complex process by the way they've defined it, um, it's very difficult for beings like that to adapt and to be able to say, okay, I expected this, I got that, now how do I proceed, right? And I think there are people with mental challenges today too who go through the same sort of thing. There are amazing skills that those people have, but a lot of times when there's a mental disability of some sort, these people require a particular schedule or set of habits, and they need things just a certain way, or else all is lost and we must start over. And I think that's a reality of the world that we live in. There are uh, complex tasks that can be achieved, but I think the ability to adapt is also very important when we talk about intelligence. We'll often lump intelligence into categories as well. So some people are really good at language, right? They know how to speak well, they know how to read and speak other languages. There are people that are good very logically, mathematically. Um, there are people who are good in like visualization, three-dimensional objects, architects, designers, engineers, those sorts of people. There's musical intelligence. There's social intelligence, emotional intelligence, right? This is how we categorize this giant topic. And it's typical to only excel in a few of these. Wouldn't it be great if we had all of these? But we'll be great in some areas and not so great in others. And then I think it's also worth considering, and this might be one of the key parts of the sermon this morning here. Can created things surpass or become more than their creator? Whenever we talk about making, we should consider, are the things that we create limited by our own knowledge and ability? Our biases and flaws, do they show up and influence the things that we create? Can we expect what we create to take over the world? Or will these things always be limited in their abilities, their use cases? As we think about this, I think one of the key verses we should introduce here is Genesis chapter 1, verses 26, 27. Very popular verses. God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in his image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. When we talk about intelligence, we have to start from the point of view that God has made us wonderful, complex creatures in his image. And as we are creative people and we make things ourselves, do they reflect the image of God as well? Or are they self serving? Are they indulgent? Because the fact of the matter is, when you define artificial intelligence, and this is the point where we're at now, that we have examined what intelligence is from a living God to living people. Artificial intelligence is defined as the ability of a digital computer or computer controlled robot to perform tasks that are commonly associated with intelligent. Greta's shaking her head over there. She's like, "Oh yeah, it sounds so terrible. I would never use AI." That's what she's thinking. Um, Artificial intelligence is programming that excels, granted, at problem solving, recognizing patterns, and quote learning. That's what they call it out there online. I don't know if it's learning in the same way that we do, but the way that it works, feed it tons of data, not just thousands, hopefully at least millions, if not more, of data points. It could be articles, it could be videos, photos, it could be social media posts, right? Whatever it is, feed the computer all this information. And then tell it, recognize all the patterns here, memorize trends that you find, and group information together, classify it for us. And then people, humans, will evaluate how well it did and iterate on that. Do it again, again, and again, and refine that till the results are satisfactory. You might note that as I describe that process, there's no indication that there's any thinking of its own. Trained on existing data. There's nothing new that is generated, technically speaking, because it is using what's already out there on the internet or on your phones or whatever. It could not generate a new musical style if it wanted to, a new scientific theory, or a major philosophical work. It could not, give you truth that you can't already find in the Bible. So it has its limitations. And if you do use AI, you probably know some of these limitations. There's lots of entertainment to be found when examining how AI hallucinates things. You ask it a question, and it makes up an answer that you can readily verify is not accurate, right? It'll pretend that an event happened in 1994 that never actually happened. You can go verify that. It will tell you it's okay to put rocks on your pizza and eat it. I've heard people say that it's a cheap imitation of the creative lives God has given us, very derivative, right? If you think of the way God has created us, and then we're trying to create just like Him, something that is just as good, it feels like we're elevating ourselves to the point of being like God and creating life, or at least that seems to be the goal. There's deception and misleading people in this. You might have heard of deepfakes. You can make videos now and photos that make people look like they're doing something that they aren't really doing, saying something that they didn't ever say. Imagine what that could be used for to convince people of something. Because it's so realistic that a religious leader comes out claiming something that they've never actually claimed. And the Bible talks about being wise in terms of our Christian lives. Colossians 2:8, beware lest anyone cheat you through philosophy and empty deceit, according to the tradition of men, according to the basic principles of the world and not according to Christ. Be discerning. Learn to understand what is real and what isn't. Test it against Scripture. Two other downsides that I observed as I did my research. There are built-in biases from the companies, organizations, and people that build these AI models. I screenshotted something from an article that I probably should have put up on the screen for you. But ChatGPT, at one point, I confirmed yesterday that it wasn't still happening, so it might have been changed since this was grabbed. But they asked the AI to write a joke about Jesus, and it went ahead and did so. And then they asked it to write a joke about Allah, and it said, well, sorry, we can't do that. Making jokes about religious figures can be offensive to some people. Isn't that interesting? Right? If you were to ask AI if Christianity is the one true religion and that all of that kind of stuff, it would probably be unwilling to commit to that, at the very least. And so, I suppose the goal of these tools would be to create something that is nonpartisan, something that is equal opportunity for all, that doesn't lean one way or the other. But the fact is that as we create things as people, right, we're more likely to want to hear the things that we believe and to share that with others. And lastly, and I think the most dangerous thing, at least for me, in my experience, is that AI, go to it with a question, looking for answers. It doesn't truly engage your mind and your heart when you get your answer from it. There's probably a lot of other ways that you could have found that information. But instead, easy way to do this, to put in a prompt, it tells you, and you accept it as a gospel truth. Because, of course, it's been trained so well, it can't be wrong. It makes us lazy, right? Maybe I should start looking for Bible verses myself. Pull out one of the Bibles out of the pew and say, okay, I need the verse that says, Jesus wept. I can never remember the reference, right? I should probably memorize it, honestly, the reference is. But if I need to look for it, am I going to ask AI to tell me? Or am I going to look for it myself and learn? It creates this dependency on it that we're so helpless without this tool. A couple of scriptures here, Proverbs 2, verses 1 through 6. My son, if you receive my words, treasure my commands within you, so that you incline your ear to wisdom and apply your heart to understanding. Yes, if you cry out for discernment and lift up your voice for understanding, if you seek her as silver and search for her as hidden treasures, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. Acts 17, verse 11. These people, the Bereans, were more fair-minded than those in Thessalonica when Paul went there. They received the word with all readiness and searched the scriptures daily to find out whether things that were being preached were so. They didn't ask others about what they should do or what they should believe. Leave it at that. Rather, they spent their own time and energy finding out for themselves. And I think that's a very real, very dangerous thing, that we rely on something as smart yet dumb as a computer to tell us all the things we ought to know. The last negative here that specifically applies to the Christian life is that based on the fact that AI is driven by logic and data, right, it's been trained on information. What if God called you to do something most people would consider illogical? What if He said, Scott, pick up your things, go become a missionary in Antarctica? I don't know who's in Antarctica. I don't know the first thing about what to do at that point. If I were to ask AI, should I go do this? It would probably recommend against it, I'm guessing, but I didn't actually try it. I should have tried that for the purposes of the sermon. I'll do it afterwards and give you an update next time I'm up here. Now, the positives. I've gone over a lot of negatives, and I probably sound very anti-AI right now. I'm not saying you can't be. But let's take this idea and run with it that I'm supposed to be a missionary in Antarctica for a moment. Well, I don't know where to start after that. I'd probably talk with my wife. We agree on some things and we decide, some of that. But okay, what do we do about our stuff? What do we do about jobs that we have and our savings and banking and all of that? Need to um, buy some materials that we don't have. Probably we need parkas and dog sleds and whatever else, right? I think if I were to go to AI and say, this is what I'm doing, God is sending me here, what are some things I can do to help prepare myself? I think it'd be pretty good at that, right? So idea generation, once you know what you're going to do because God has called you, I think AI might be somewhat useful in getting you some practical application. Because the fact of the matter is, people have done things in this world. People have traveled to Antarctica. And so there's probably some information floating around the internet that it could pull. Now, we've gotten some ideas about how to practically make the move from here to Antarctica. Just going with this, okay? This was not in my notes. I'm just making it work. I don't know. Do they speak English in Antarctica? Maybe they don't. I might need a translation of the Bible and to translate everything I know in English to the Antarctican language. You guys are going to have fun with this, aren't you? Okay. AI could translate things really well for you into many different languages. It's good with presentation as well. I don't know how many of you noticed last week when we had church lunch, but my wife had a little sign up at the front of the line saying, if you go this way, you can make Swedish meatballs and gravy, and if you go that way, you can make a KFC famous bowl with chicken and corn and all that. The AI did that. She's talented. She could have drawn it herself, I guarantee you. But to make things easy, AI. I don't know if you knew this, but when Rick has a sermon and his slides are up here, Rick, I'm calling you out on this, but so I don't mind it. His slides are a lot of AI, all those diagrams and stuff. He's not that good at drawing. Sorry to say. But it's kind of cool, kind of helpful to visualize what he's talking about, I think. What a tool for something like that to help people learn. And of course, it's good at doing research, like I already mentioned. So we have this man-made creation that we've called artificial intelligence. And I've said it already, but I'll say it again. We were made by a God who knew what he was doing. And although the things that we create are influenced by our knowledge and abilities and the limitations that are involved there, we have biases, we have flaws, and all of that is wrapped up in whatever we create. When I write a piece of music, it's going to be imperfect. Sorry to say, good as it sounds. When we give sermons, they're not the best sermons in the world. You go to work and you put out a product for your company, It will not be the end all be all of that company and be talked about for generations, probably, because we are perfect people. But our God is perfect. And I think that is an amazing thing to remind ourselves of when we consider all of the flaws that this tool has. Instead of spending all of our time, effort, and money as a society on creating something that will never live up to what we want it to, we could instead use the perfect creation that God has made in us to do amazing things instead. And maybe we feel like we have to create something to do these crazy, complicated things for us. But the fact of the matter is, we're able to do all of that and more if we apply ourselves. And the laziness and the dependency that's created because of these things is a crutch. And we're hobbling along and we're unwilling to let ourselves heal and become more than what we're leaning on. We have a purpose here on earth. Sometimes it feels like we're trying to replace that a bit. Maybe we feel like we're trying to get out of the curse in Genesis that was given when Adam and Eve sinned against God. Cursed is the ground for your sake, it said. You will toil all the days of your life. And here we are trying to get AI and robots and things to do all of it for us. I mean, I get it. No one wants to be cursed and toil and slave away their whole life. But are we just trying to get out of the consequences of our actions here? And even if they could take over for us, what do we do then? Sit around and watch TV all day? We just go on vacation and never come back? We have things to do. We have a purpose here. God is calling us to do things. And He's probably not calling us to create the perfect AI. But no matter what comes of this sort of tool, no matter how imperfect it feels, God's word is perfect. God is perfect. No matter what else fails, He will be faithful. He will continue to guide us along the way, even when there's not a computer to guide us. And I think that's a very reassuring thing. We are fearfully and wonderfully made, it says in Psalm 139:14. Marvelous are your works, O God. My prayer for each of us this morning as we consider how it plays a part in our lives, if it does at all, is to consider how God has made us. Consider what we're capable of instead of what we're capable of outsourcing. Because each one of us is incredible as a person. And it's easy to accept the things that are fed to us. Truth. It's easy to rely on something else to do the things we know we ought to do ourselves. But I think God is calling us to action. He is calling us to be an example. Thank you very much.